This week on Africa Weekly. Following a recent spate in political killings, we go to one of South Africa's estates notorious for housing hitmen. We meet a foreign fighter turned farmer as the Central African Republic struggles to recover from its 5-year conflict. And we travel to Uganda, where programmers are teaching coding to young people in low-income rural communities. But first, a summary of the stories that made the headlines this week. After a tense few months, President Uhuru Kenyatta has been declared the winner of Kenya's turbulent election rerun. Despite the fact that an estimated 66% of voters did not participate, Kenyatta says his victory is proof of his legitimacy.
This was nothing more than a revalidation of their general will.
Opposition candidate and Kenyatta's main rival, Raila Odinga, had pulled out of the running in the poll which he said did not comply with the terms of the Supreme Court ruling that had overturned the original election in August. Odinga, who claims voter turnout was much lower than officially reported, has vowed not to accept what he calls a sham election, saying he will push for a fresh vote through a campaign of civil disobedience and peaceful protest.
If allowed to stand, it will make a complete mockery of elections and might well be the end of the ballot as a means of instituting a government in Kenya.
At least 27 people were killed in an attack in Mogadishu last weekend after gunmen staged coordinated bombings outside a hotel before storming the building. The Al-Qaeda-aligned Shabab group have claimed responsibility for the incident, which has led the government to dismiss the country's police and intelligence chiefs. The sackings come 2 weeks after the country was rocked by its worst ever terrorist attack, when at least 358 people were killed in a huge truck bombing. The world's newest joint international force, the anti-jihadist five-nation G5 Sahel that links countries across the Sahel, began operations on Wednesday. Placed under the leadership of a Malian general, Didier Dacko, and supported by the French military mission, the force plans to number up to 5,000 military, police and civilian troops by next March. Its activities will be initially confined to Mali, Burkina Faso and Niger, where central governments have weak control over remote areas. Thousands of Burundians celebrated their country's withdrawal from the International Criminal Court as it became the first ever nation to leave the world's only permanent war crimes tribunal. The government had called on people to rally nationwide following the announcement, as activists mourned what they see as a major blow to international justice. Despite the withdrawal, ICC officials said that a preliminary probe launched by the prosecutor last year into possible crimes against humanity in the Central African nation would continue.
This accommodation for migrant workers is one of the most dangerous places in South Africa. Glebelands in KwaZulu-Natal is home to several of the gunmen responsible for a slew of killings in the battle for control of the regional branch of the ruling ANC party that has claimed more than 90 victims since 2014.
We lost a lot of our friends here. As you can see, these holes here, R5, AK-47 had been used to us. I'm not telling you the hearsay, I'm telling something that I was present when it happened. The people that are hitmen here, they are being used by the politicians.
Tens of thousands of people live in the complex of 71 squalid dormitories. It's easy to recruit shady characters ready for illicit work from the residences. They're watched over by police who turn a blind eye.
And there's been so many complaints about corruption and collusion with hitmen by the local, involving the local police station and other certain individuals within the police force, and no proper investigation to stop that. So the hitmen thought they could just carry on doing what they do best, and because of the economic conditions, it makes it very easy to hire a hitman. So it's proliferated. And now it's really sort of out of control.
Some members of the ANC accept the party's share of the blame for the mounting bloodshed, but few have acted to stop the hitmen or to protect their targets.
We cannot continue with this kind of culture. It's a counter-revolutionary culture. Killing is a crime even in the Bible. So we cannot tolerate it. We should not tolerate it. All of us must take that decision that I'm going to be part of finding a solution.
With the leadership of the ANC in the balance, the party is more divided than ever between Cyril Ramaphosa, the deputy president, and the president's former wife, Nkosazana Dlamini-Zuma, who comes from the region. The bloodshed in the state looks set to continue for the foreseeable future.
Richard has swapped his weapons for some farming tools. For 5 years he played an important role in the self-appointed, mostly Christian, vigilante anti-Balaka militia, fighting against the ex-Seleka, armed groups who claimed they were protecting the Muslim minority in Central Africa. Following a ceasefire deal signed in May, his hometown managed to achieve relative peace. Richard decided now was the time to make a new life for him and his former comrades.
I was a farmer when my mother and father died. That was how they put food on the table. We grew up like that, and that's how I came up with this idea. I'd like to tell my younger brothers that we suffered a lot. Our country has gone backwards. Taking up arms is useless. You can't eat a weapon.
Richard's farm is part of the vast DDR, Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Programme, launched by the UN and the Central African Government in September. Former fighters now make soap, and Muslim and Christian women gather in cooperatives. 3,000 people are part of the pilot project. Nearly half of them are in Bambari.
On va donner à ces jeunes des kits d'installation.
We're going to give these young people starter kits and some farming tools to allow them to put what they've learned during the training courses into practice.
Central African authorities have visited the demobilization projects here, but in the neighboring regions, the situation is still tense.
Sur l'axe Bambari-Bria, c'est une zone
The Bambari-Bria area could be destabilized. There are still groups of armed men around.
Être mise à mal. Il y a effectivement des déplacements d'hommes armés.
Since 2004, the Central African Civil War has left thousands of people dead. In a town still struggling to recover from a 5-year conflict and with ongoing tensions between armed groups, the success of the DDR program will depend on how long peace in the country will hold.
Karamoja is one of the poorest regions in Uganda. It's estimated that over 80% of Karamojong people live in poverty. Many children never finish primary school. Peter is one of the exceptions. He's now in his final year in technical college studying construction. Most days he manufactures mud bricks and concrete fencing posts, but today there's a new class. With funding from the Belgian Development Agency and Irish Aid, a group of tech experts has travelled from the Ugandan capital Kampala to teach some of the most deprived students to code as part of Africa Coding Week. Organisers hope these new skills will help build students' confidence and creativity. Many of them are the first generation in their family to attend school.
My parents don't know more about maybe a computer or coding. Even my brothers don't know, though they have gone to school. But I can be in position also to show them at home that these are certain things which I knew, which are now in the world.
Traditionally, people in this remote region of northeast Uganda depend on cattle to make a living. The Karamojong have endured not only internal wars, but cattle raids from neighbouring Kenya. The area has been neglected by the central government for many years. For generations, cattle have been the main currency, and survival has depended on the gun rather than the pen.
Although the place is now peaceful, we tell them bring children to school. You are telling us to bring children to school? What's the benefit of education? We don't see benefit of education. You people who are educated, we don't see you with many cows.
As the Karamojong are forced to find new ways out of poverty, the road to progress is still long, but small steps are being made.
The Del Latitude Rugged Race 3 got underway in Cape Town this week for the highly anticipated Southern Ocean sleigh ride towards Fremantle, Australia. First to cross the start line ahead of a triangular course in Table Bay was Cape Townian Dale Smith's Dare to Lead team. Next week we meet local craft brewers in South Africa as they try to break into the international market. That's all from us at Africa Weekly. Until next week.